processing. Whether it's from water damage, contents getting crushed, or RFID scanners, protect all your wallet's contents with Illuma Wallet. You get 2 silver Illuma wallets for only $10.99. Illuma Wallet's also available in black, blue, and red. And remember, order now and find out about free shipping.
Call 1-800-353-0363, but call now. We're giving away a bonus Illuma Wallet with all of today's orders. Call 1-800-353-0363 and find out about free shipping. 1-800-353-0363.
With 99% of the vote in the 2012 GOP Iowa caucus, Rick Santorum holds a very, very, very exceedingly slim lead of 4 votes over Mitt Romney. Santorum at 29,968 votes. Mitt Romney, 29,964. The AP said earlier last hour, I guess it was, that an announcement is imminent, so we will be keeping our eyes on that. In the meantime, we just got off the phone with the, I think the Democratic State Party Chair, Sue Dvorsky in Iowa, who I thought was extremely good television presence, who was talking about what the Democrats were doing tonight on the other side, sort of using it as an organizational opportunity, and highlighted the fact that the grassroots energy that got a million articles written about it in 2008 when it was much more novel, when Barack Obama was the underdog, when he was the insurgent candidate, when he needed it to get every last delegate in every last state, in every last caucus in order to unseat Hillary Clinton, that infrastructure is still there. It's still very powerful. It's still very mobilized, even if we're not paying as much attention to it in the press. And that's part of the reason I wanted to have Sue on. Ramesh, you said during the break there's something you wanted to say about that.
You know, I think that the chairman's point and also Michelle's point about organization is a very important one. I talked to a Republican strategist a few months after the 2010 election, and he was saying the underreported story is that we Republicans got out-organized during this campaign. We won because we had enthusiasm on our side, because independents agreed with us on the issues that they considered the top issues of that election. But if those things hadn't been true, if it had been an even election in those respects, we would have lost because we got out-organized.
That's very interesting.
And other strategists have backed him up on that.
Yeah, and I've actually heard that people say that there was about 10 to 15 House seats on the table that could have been won if there was a better organizational infrastructure. And I think that's exceedingly interesting too, because one of the things we saw happen in Iowa was there wasn't a ton of people on the ground. Rick Santorum was on the ground and Ron Paul was, but that's about it. I mean, a lot of this campaign was being run in this new vein, which was the Fox News primary, essentially, and there was a lot of, I think, conventional wisdom, but not wrong, that this had fundamentally changed the way campaigns are run, particularly on the right, that the monopoly Fox News particularly holds over the the median Republican primary voter is so profound and so total that that's what matters. How often are you on Fox? How much exposure you're getting? And not all of the sort of aspects of retail politics and all the door knocking and all the things that made Barack Obama a winner. Melissa, do you think that ends up being shown to be the case or not the case tonight, given the fact that 2 of the 3 top people, Ron Paul and Rick Santorum, are the ones who went and pressed the flesh the most in Iowa?
Well, absolutely. Look, part of what is so fascinating about Iowa every time is that it's a different kind of election because they're caucuses, because they're neighbors standing there making the case to each other. It always brings that retail politics into sort of the reality of this so-called, game change. I mean, we had a game-changing election, right, but then it also doesn't change other aspects of it. One of the things that was interesting to watch in the concession speeches was how many of the candidates were talking about the young people who'd come and were on the ground, who'd driven up from Texas or whatever, and it was almost like they were slightly surprised to find out that American elections are still built literally on the backs and legs of young people who are knocking doors, who are walking through cold nights, who are doing that kind of work. And you could just sort of hear that on the one hand there was a sense of gratitude, but also almost a sense of shock that this is still what it takes to win an election or a caucus in America.
I'm a little skeptical that Santorum won or came in second. We'll find out, I guess, maybe in a couple days. As a function of his ground game. I think it was the ground game plus the fact that everybody else around it had imploded. I think, on the other hand, Ron Paul's supporters, I think they are deeply, deeply committed. I mean, I think they are people who are not going to, once Ron Paul is out of the race, are not going to easily jump into another one of those candidates. No. I think they may sit out. I think they may be disgusted by it. I think a lot of those things. I think the real question is, the people who are supporting Ron Paul, why are they doing? Yeah. I mean, I think that's really the question, because I think a lot of it.
What do you mean by that? Why does anyone support anyone? I mean, what do you mean by that?
But I mean, what aspect of Ron Paul is drawing his support? Because I actually think that it has less to do with his small government proposals, because we would see more of those people sort of say, oh, my second choice is someone else who at least talks that game. I think a lot of people are drawn to him because of his anti-empire talk, because of his saying, let's end these wars talk. And I also think civil liberties. Now,
I don't. The marijuana?
No, I think marijuana is also an issue too, but I think they are the issues that he tends to stick with. He's not talking about cutting Social Security, although that's what he would want to do. He's not talking about getting rid of the EPA, although that's what he would do. Right. He's not even talking about the states infringing upon our civil liberties. He's not getting too deep into what he's talking about, but I think those are the things that are attracting voters to him with such depth of commitment.
Yeah, please. I think I disagree, but continue.
Well, I mean, he's put together really the strangest coalition maybe in American political history, because he certainly has the kind of libertarian hipsters, the people who are really concerned about ending the drug war, people who do like his foreign policy, who want to kind of end American empire. But with that, he also has the kind of hardcore theocrats, the hardcore old right, the remnants of the John Birch Society. And for them, it is really small government. I mean, I thought it was fascinating that you had Ken Sorensen jump from Michelle Bachmann to Ron Paul, you know, because on foreign policy and on so many issues, these are such radically different candidates. But actually, from the point of view of part of the hardcore religious right, they're very much of a piece. On the one hand, that seems strange on the surface, because Ron Paul is libertarian, and how does that fit with, you know, theocracy? But when I was talking to pastors in Iowa, including supporters of his, they were basically saying, one said, well, you know, we do want a theocracy, but we want it from the ground up. What they want to do is remove all impediments to the imposition of religious law on the local scale. So for them, it really is about getting rid of government, getting rid of all of these Supreme Court protections for minorities.
He's got a big Christian Reconstructionist background, but I think the difference between Ron Paul 2008 and 2012 is the war weariness. I really do think because when you look at all those young people going and voting for Ron Paul, they're not going because they want a theocracy. They're just not aware of it.
You're right. But he came in.
18-year-olds love nothing more than the gold standard.
Yeah, that's
well-known, central political science fact that 18-year-olds love the gold standard.
But he came in second among evangelicals.
Bauer, Friedrich Hayek, all those.
First of all, the entrance polling that we had tonight shows that Paul really did very well among the youngest voters. Yeah. And he won 50% of 17 to 24, 45% of 25 to 29, 34% of 30 to 39. He won all the three bottom brackets of the.
But he also did very well among evangelicals.
Yes, he did very well against evangelicals. My question to you is: there's two questions about Ron Paul, sort of where he in the political landscape. One is something that Sam put his finger on, which I think is really interesting. You watch the GOP debates, and we've discussed this on the show. You watch the GOP debates, and you have essentially a bunch of neoconservative, very, very hawkish neoconservative candidates. John Huntsman, and then Ron Paul. And it just seems like there's a lot of space in between that is not being occupied. And I think that's interesting. I mean, there seems to me a space for a candidate who does not have Ron Paul's sort of full-throated both rejection of any internationalism whatsoever, rejection of the project of American empire, etc., but who isn't gearing up to bomb Iran, who speaks to the war weariness people.
The problem is that the president occupies that space right now. I mean, the problem is that, there's a big space, and President Obama is standing right in the middle of it, right, with these very real foreign policy successes at the same time that he's drawing down troops in Iraq. So it's part of what's interesting about the war weariness question at this moment is that, I understand the war weariness, obviously, but that's been sort of an impetus in American politics really since '06.
Right.
And it's part of what brought in the Democratic majority in the House.
The reason Barack Obama is the president of the United States.
It's the reason that Barack Obama is the president.
And 2004. I mean, if you look at the exit polls, people who voted on the Iraq War voted against Bush in 2004. The way I would put it is we have this curious situation where I think most of the Republican Party is against certainly the Ron Paul type of kind of extreme non-interventionism, but the only people among Republican voters who are interested in foreign policy right now are those non-interventionists. The people who, I mean,
there's just not a lot of salience for the other voter, right?
Exactly. So Huntsman, I think, in a way, occupies a good space theoretically, except nobody cares.
Right. And I think that the salience of those views is really interesting. In fact, it was interesting to see tonight. Ron Paul said, you know, he talked about the successes they had, and it's clear to him that he sees his mission as this kind of ideological one, fundamentally, to sort of shape the conversation and the narrative, and to get people to think about his ideas and introduce them. And he said, the thing I'm most excited is we've had the most success with our foreign policy stuff, but I actually don't think that's the case. It doesn't seem to me like his critiques of American empire are moving GOP voters very much. I mean,
well, I think part of, if you're talking about Ron Paul, I think the hardcore Ron Paul supporters are in it for anti-empire and the Federal Reserve. Right. But when they make the case to other people and try to grow that base, they're emphasizing things like he's pro-life, he's pro-defense, he's the most consistent conservative that's out there.
Right.
Can I say one thing that I thought was interesting?
You can say many things.
Well, yeah, we got time. The interesting thing about Romney's speech tonight was, you know, they had taken away the teleprompters because he wanted to be extemporaneous like Santorum had been. Right. And they
took him away at the last second. It should be noted. Apparently they were out and up on the stage. Santorum came out, spoke extemporaneously, and the call was made, get them off the stage. And then out came the teleprompter.
And the one that sort of like, I thought his speech was sort of all over the place, but it was clear that someone said to Romney right before he went on, don't forget Iran. Don't forget Iran, because Santorum has really staked out the most hawkish, neoconish position on that debate stage. And I think Romney was there trying to sort of like preempt that, you know, forgive all the different puns here.
Right.
But, and, you know, I think he just got a little too excited. That was in the front of his head. There was no reason for him to go to Iran the first thing out of the gate. But I think he was really addressing Santorum at that moment.
Michelle, I want you to respond to that. But first, we're going to update you very quickly on the vote total, which remains a slim 4-vote margin. The AP has told us they'll be calling it definitively imminently. That's 29,968 votes for Rick Santorum, 29,964 for Mitt Romney, a difference of 4. Michelle, I want you to respond to this. We'll talk more about the GOP, foreign policy, and where this field goes next right after this.
A simple gesture can spark romance anytime. And when it does, men with erectile dysfunction can be more confident in their ability to be ready with Cialis for daily use. Cialis for daily use is a clinically proven low-dose tablet you take every day, so you can be ready anytime the moment's right, even if it's not every day.
Tell your doctor about all your medical conditions and medications, and ask if your heart is healthy enough for sexual activity.
Don't take Cialis if you take nitrates for chest pain, as this may cause an unsafe drop in blood pressure.
Do not drink alcohol in excess with Cialis. Side effects may include headache, upset stomach, delayed backache, or muscle ache. To avoid long-term injury, seek immediate medical help for an erection lasting more than 4 hours. If you have any sudden decrease or loss in hearing or vision, stop taking Cialis and call your doctor right away.
Ask your doctor if Cialis for daily use is right for you. For a 30-tablet free trial offer, go to Cialis.com.
If you had $1 for every dollar car insurance companies say they'll save you by switching, you'd have like a ton of dollars. But how are they saving you those dollars? A lot of companies might answer or no comment. Then there's Esurance. Born online, raised by technology, and majors in efficiency. So whatever they save, you save. Hassle, time, paperwork, hair tearing out, and yes, especially dollars. Esurance. Insurance for the modern world. Click or call.
Okay, so has anybody actually started saving for college yet?
Oh, not me.
No, you got time.
Oh, no, we actually started.
You have?
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Sure. We figure you start saving a little now, or you'll borrow a lot later on.
Yeah, but how did you even know where to start?
Oh, I found out about the Gerber Life College Plan.
Call now for free information on the Gerber Life College Plan. It's easy.
It's pretty much worry-free.
Well, how could it be worry-free? What if
something happens with the stock market.
No matter what happens, we get guaranteed safe growth.
So when she's ready for college, the money will be there.
And it doesn't take a lot of money to get started.
For as little as $10 a week, you can start saving for college and get guaranteed growth. Just call now.
Oh, it's a life insurance policy, too.
Oh, that's different.
And if she decides not to go to college, there's no penalty, so she can use the money for anything.
We've got to get started.
Yes, we do, because you're going to college.
Call 1-800-887-0174 for your free information. That's 1-800-887-0174.
This is not a goalie. This is a human wall of fortitude, whose sole job is to shut down every crashing body and vulcanized rubber bullet, night after night after night.
This is the all-new NBC Sports Network.
And we have candidates for president now saying that government can't create jobs. These are guys with government jobs. They're on the government payroll saying government can't create jobs. Government created your job.
With 99% of the vote in, Rick Santorum now at 29,968 votes. Mitt Romney, 29,964 votes, 4 votes behind. Mitt Romney managing to essentially get exactly the same number, plus or minus, I guess, less 24 votes or so from his performance in 2008. The AP said last hour that they had an announcement that was imminent, and we will continue to see just what their definition of imminent is.
We can't just call the Supreme Court. I mean, don't they decide
And there are no
these
recounts.
kinds of
We should note it
things?
has been declared that there are no recounts.
You got to give Romney props for maintaining some consistency. The knock on him is that he's always flip-flopping.
Oh, that's true.
He goes in, I'm going to get the exact amount, same of votes.
Daily Show, you can take that.
There
That's
you go.
free.
There you go.
That's a
There you
good
go.
one. I want to come back to the question of, as we sort of game out where this goes next, because New Hampshire is the next big thing. It seems to me that because Santorum doesn't have much in the way of money, he doesn't have much in the way of organization, he's not necessarily a huge threat unless we really see a real coalescing around him. Ron Paul, though, is going to be in this for a while. And Ramesh, from your perch in the sort of center of American conservatism, the National Review, how much of a threat do you think the Republican establishment views Paul? Do they view him as essentially a crank they can dismiss, or is there at some level at which he could actually cause problems for the party, for conservatism, if he stays in this for a very long time?
I think Republicans are more concerned about the prospect of a third-party run than they are about him, coming to Tampa with a bunch of delegates and trying to make trouble there. A third-party run, I think, would really frighten Republicans quite a bit. But they think that as long as Rand Paul is in the Senate, they, in a way, have a hostage that prevents that from happening.
Oh, that's interesting. Is that actually a calculation that's made?
I think so. I mean, I think, you've seen people like Rand Paul himself, more or less, say something to that effect. I mean, and I think the thing is, if Republicans blame Ron Paul for losing the election against Barack Obama, then do they take it out against Rand Paul, who most libertarians in the sort of Paul dynasty orbit consider the more politically talented of the two and the one who's actually the future of this movement?
Yeah, I'm sure Ron Paul would feel that his son's going to pull himself up by his bootstraps and would not make that calculation. But there was a moment tonight where there was a hoax that went out about Gary Johnson.
Yes.
That Gary Johnson had quit his libertarian run and was going to endorse Ron Paul.
It seems like a very weird hoax.
Well, the only thing I can imagine is that may have somebody may have done it to try and get some more delegates in Iowa. I'm not sure, but for whatever the reason, at that moment, it was almost palpable, this sense of like, Ron Paul's going to go and run as a libertarian candidate, and that you could almost feel that chill through Twitter.
That would definitely
change things dramatically. Really, but I do think that his son being having a future in the Republican Party is probably going to be sort of the leash.
That's interesting.
But look, the Republicans are hurt even without a third-party candidate running here. For as painful as the Democratic primary turned out to be in 2008 with all of the, Clinton, Obama, the fact is that the long primary season ended up registering Democrats in all 50 states. It made a 50-state strategy possible. And so they're in trouble right now just because their top 2 or 3 don't look like they can go the long haul. all, somebody is going to show up in the next couple of primaries. This isn't going to go the long haul, and they're going to have real registration problems. Now, they may be able to use voter ID laws to keep Democrats from being able to vote. So, there may be a different kind of strategy. But in terms of pure sort of excitement for the base, people to care about getting out there in these late primaries, if that goes away because they don't have strong second, I think
and
that's
the whole
bad
reason that it was so long, right, was because there was 3 viable candidates, who actually had a shot. I mean, what's so amazing is that they're so desperate not to nominate Romney. They hate him. This is a more conservative electorate than the electorate that didn't nominate him 4 years ago, and yet they have no one else. There's like literally nothing that these people who are desperate not to nominate Romney can do. So
Yeah, do you think, it seems to me that we're going to see now that Iowa's over and into New Hampshire, we're going to see the kind of the pressure start to build to